Relationships with other people are hard enough. Then add Lyme disease to the mix, you've basically thrown a Molotov cocktail into any chance of a smooth relationship. Whether you're trying to explain how you feel to your partner or your spouse, or you're just trying to relate to friends, family, or even your kids, Lyme disease makes this incredibly hard. After going through Lyme disease myself and helping thousands of others navigate this difficult health challenge, one thing has been especially clear. Talking about Lyme disease with other people can go terribly wrong. But if we slow down, keep an open mind, and understand how other people are hearing us, we can frame these conversations in a way that gives us a much better shot at being supported instead of pushing people away. Welcome to the Lyme Wars podcast. This week is Valentine's Day, so I thought it would be appropriate to start breaking down relationships and how they factor into your Lyme disease healing journey, because the truth is, it can be really hard. Talking about Lyme disease can go terribly wrong, and it's my job and my responsibility to help people navigate this crisis and to help them get better. So I want to break this down. I want to help you understand how we can show up so that we're being understood and supported instead of being pushed away or annoying to other people, which can be the case, unfortunately. So let's talk about it. First of all, people simply don't like being educated about Lyme disease or really about anything for that matter. The truth is, most people are already overloaded. They have their own stress, their own fears, their own responsibilities that they're worried about. So if Lyme disease isn't their responsibility or their problem, it's sometimes hard for people to emotionally enter that space with you. And here's the hard truth. Most people don't want to be educated about a disease that they don't have. Now, why is that? Well, it's can feel abstract if they've never experienced it. And sometimes they even think that you're faking it or not really telling the full truth or the full story. It's not tangible to them because they haven't experienced it themselves. On top of that, being educated or lectured about something is typically just boring for people, and it can even be overwhelming as you throw a bunch of facts and figures and ideas at them while they have their own problems that they're dealing with. So it is tricky for other people to fully understand what you're going through in the first place. I know this to be true because I have two kids, and anytime you enter into education or lecture mode, their brain typically shuts off or tunes me out immediately because people simply don't like to be lectured to or educated about things. The real problem here isn't about the other person, it's really about you, the person experiencing Lyme disease, because the truth is, explaining Lyme disease to a complete beginner who doesn't have Lyme disease is exhausting. They simply just usually won't understand it fully, even no matter how hard they try. And that means that there's a low return on emotional energy when you bear everything and tell someone exactly how you're feeling and what you're going through, and they're not able to reciprocate that. It's just a low return on investment. And so it leaves both parties feeling overwhelmed, maybe annoyed, maybe bored, or, just not supported. Now, of course, this is a generalization. There are rare exceptions of people that want to be educated about Lyme disease, and those people are gold, right? If there's someone in your life that cares enough about you to learn about the difficult experience that you're having and learn all the ins and outs tied to it, that person should be cherished. Appreciate them because it's easy to take that for granted. And so many people that I talk to on a daily basis don't have that supportive individual, that person that's there for them, the person that's side by side with them, holding their hand and learning with them so that they can support you in the best possible way. And so if you have that, please realize you have something special. And, at the end of it, to me, life really is about the relationships and the people in our life. And so we've got to do what it takes to make those people feel special and appreciated because what they're doing is special. And it's important to have gratitude for those people. So don't forget that if you have someone that's really looking out for you, really wanting to learn with you, really wanting to hold your hand and go through this process with you, just cherish them and keep them close. And Lyme disease often leads to frustration, but the thing is, you're not just experiencing frustration. It's also a big part of it is grief because you're grieving your old energy, your old freedom, your old assumptions about your body. You've lost touch with a lot of those things if you're experiencing Lyme disease. You no longer have the same energy, the same brain capacity, the same feeling in your body. And usually people are held back by joint pain, swelling, flares, brain fog, fatigue, massive fatigue. And so there is grieving that old version of yourself, and that alone leads to that grief feeling and often comes out as frustration for some people. So grief doesn't show up clean, right? It usually shows up as irritation or snapping, right? Just blowing up on someone or over explaining things to people. And that can really lead to a lot of turmoil and communication issues between two parties. And conversations can get intense because it's not about information anymore. It's about loss. It's about the life that has been lost in the pursuit of trying to get better from Lyme disease. And often people spend years and years trying to fix their body and trying to get out of this hole that they're in with their health. And so if your partner doesn't fully understand that, or they're not fully on board, or they're not quite gripping the reality of what Lyme disease and co-infections does to your body, that can really put a damper on things. It can really make things difficult in a relationship. The important thing here is that the person that you're speaking with, or your partner, or your spouse, the person you're in a relationship with, they don't realize what they're witnessing. They don't realize that you're going through grief and they just feel the weight of that grief, and it's hard for them to understand or fully come to terms with because it's not them and they're not going through it themselves. It's important to realize you're not weak, you're not dramatic, you're just simply mourning a life that you lost, and you didn't choose this. You didn't choose to have Lyme disease. Nobody chooses to go through these difficult health challenges. It came to you, and now it's on you to deal with it, which I know is hard. You didn't choose to lose the life that you had before, and you're mourning that loss in the best way you know how. And trying to explain this to another person is very difficult if you don't have the words, especially if you're experiencing brain fog and all the rest of the symptoms on top of it becomes very difficult. And often people just snap on their loved ones or just, overexert their emotions or overshare, and it can be really detrimental, especially to a new growing relationship. Not like the really long-term relationships. Usually they'll be okay. They, are there for each other through sickness and through health. And so this is part of the thing that they said they were originally going to do, and they just go for the ride and they try to support you the best way they can. But if it's a newer relationship, they may not be fully committed to that yet. And so it can be really tricky to get through some of this stuff. That's exactly why we have to talk about it, be open about it, and dissect it inside and out so that we understand what's really going on and so we can show up and have those important conversations with our loved ones because, again, they're the most important thing in our life. But there's a big difference between venting and asking for support. So most conflicts here are just mismatched expectations. If you expect something to happen and it doesn't happen, that causes conflict. So if you're venting to someone, but they're jumping in to fix it, right? Let's say you're just telling them how bad things are, and then the next thing you know, they've got rubber gloves on and the shovel, and they're kicking down the backyard door because they're going outside to go fix this problem, right? That's not what you want sometimes. Sometimes you just want to be heard, be understood, and have them hear you and sit with you and kind of grieve with you when you're going through this really difficult time. So if they go right to trying to fix the problem when you're there just trying to vent and get some things off your mind, that can trigger you and cause you to feel like they're not hearing you and they're not with you, even though they feel like I'm doing my best. I'm trying to fix this problem, right? So it's important to be very upfront with what you want from each conversation when you're discussing these difficult topics. So if you want to be heard and not solved, then say up front, I just need to vent. I just need to get this off my mind. I just want you to sit with me. Say those things up front. The more clear you can be, the more easy you're making it on your partner to show up how you need them to show up. So often people have these unsaid, unspoken expectations of the other person. And when they don't say the things that they need, the other person doesn't know how to show up and they show up in the way that they think is correct. Oftentimes they're wrong. And of course, on the flip side, if you want help, if you want someone to help you solve your problems or fix the current difficult thing you're going through, say that as well. Say, I need help with this specific thing. And it's best to be as clear as you can possibly be. Instead of saying, can you help me with the chores? That can be a million different things. In my brain, and this has obviously happened to me, I'm sure this has happened to you as well. But when someone says, "Can you help me with the chores?" That's so many different things. Which one, right? What do you want me to do? It can be really overwhelming, and then you have to decide which one to help with and all that. But if you say, "Can you do the dishes and take out the garbage?" Boom. Okay, yeah, no problem. I can definitely do that. I can solve that problem for you. I can fix that. That's not a big deal at all. It's the clarity of communication that matters in moments like this. So the more clear and concise you can be, the easier your partner will have showing up in the way that you need them to show up. So as you can see, these are two totally different conversations. The I need you to help me and I need you to fix this problem versus I need to just say some things. I need to get this off my chest. I need to vent. I need to grieve. I need to mourn the loss of a life that I once had. Those are two completely different conversations. And so when those things get mixed up, there's a bunch of unsaid expectations. People tend to have these communication issues, and then that leads to fighting or arguing or breakdown of the relationship itself. And let's be honest here, it's completely unfair to expect someone to use mind reading to fix your problems or to just help and support you. It's just not fair to the other person. And usually, more often than not, what I find is people are trying their best to be there for you. They're trying their best to do what needs to be done. It's just that maybe they don't fully know what needs to be done. And that clarity can fix so many problems up front. So I think it's really valuable and important for people to adopt that mindset and to come in trying to be as clear and concise as they possibly can to get that support that they need. But oftentimes, Lyme disease ends up becoming the main character in people's lives. And that hurts a lot of people. It holds a lot of people back. It keeps people stuck because Lyme slowly takes over your conversations, your decisions, your identity itself. If you are known as a Lyme warrior or you're someone constantly showing up and fighting against Lyme disease, that can be exhausting for other people. It can be exhausting for yourself as well. But I'm not saying that you're attention seeking or anything like that. It's not attention seeking, but it is affecting everything. So the hidden cost here is that you start disappearing. There's less of you available to everyone else. And don't forget the people who love you that are in your life, they just want you. They want to hang out with you. They want your personality. They want your funny jokes. Or they want your good conversation, your sweet talks, and everything else, right? They don't want the version of you that's fighting a battle, an invisible war that they can't see or understand. And I'm not saying that that is your fault or that you need to fix that. I'm just trying to explain it from the other person's point of view. They didn't necessarily sign up to be fighting a battle. Neither did you. But when you're constantly identifying with that mode of yourself, that can be really exhausting for other people. And sometimes this leads to social fallout. It leads to friends stop calling you, stop texting you, stop trying to hang out. And it's because they can't relate. They can't understand you. They can't fully come to grips with how you've changed because you're changing to try and support, protect, and heal your body. And they're usually doing something completely different. And oftentimes, even doing things that could run directly opposite to that, right? Like if you have that one friend that loves to go out and drink and have a good time and, eat greasy foods and stay out really late, and you're trying to heal your body, so you're trying to avoid alcohol, trying to eat healthy and go to bed on time. Sometimes those two personalities just don't mesh anymore. And it might feel sad to have to let go of people, but trying to keep up with someone when you're just living a lie is even harder. So there can be that social fallout. We see that happen a lot. People change up their friend groups when they're going through difficult times like this. Now, if you have friends that fully understand you and support you and are there for you, then this won't really apply to you. But some people do go through this social fallout and need to find new friends that are also in a season of their life where they're supporting their health or healing their body or whatever it may be. But partners don't always know what version of you they're getting. If they, one day you're happy and as good as can be, and then the next day you're in severe pain and you're not feeling good, and you're snapping on your loved ones and they feel like they don't know what version of you you're going to be next. That can cause a lot of drag and a lot of problems as well. But that means that people end up bracing for conversations. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for that frustration to come out. They're avoiding some of the hard conversations because they know that it could trigger you or it could cause some big event, an argument in your relationship. But there's an important clarification here. This isn't like a moral thing. This isn't a moral failure. Illness just has a gravitational pull. It's something that just pulls you towards trying to get better. So Lyme can be part of your story, but we want to try to not make it the entire plot or the entire thing about you, right? If your about you page, let's say you're writing about me, if it's all about Lyme disease and healing the body or trying to get better, that's when you've lost yourself to this disease. You've lost yourself to the identity of someone who's fighting Lyme disease, when in fact you're so much more than that, right? I'm not saying you're wrong or you're doing anything bad or wrong, but you're just so much more than that. You're a sister, a mother, a daughter, a friend, a husband, whatever. We all have multiple identities, and embracing all of them is incredibly valuable and important. And being able to show up as the best version of you, regardless of what other health challenges you're going through, is obviously really hard, but it's so worth it. If you lose yourself to Lyme disease and you're only one thing, and you only ever talk about that one thing, it just pushes people away and it doesn't help you long term show up being authentic and being yourself. So it's important to understand your full identity with all of the different parts and nurture all of those parts rather than trying to just rely solely on being the Lyme warrior, the person that's fighting for their health every single day. Because while that's noble and it's great and it's a quality that's important to have for you to get through this thing, leaning on it too hard leads to overload, overwhelm, and it will hold you back. So don't forget about the other parts of your identity, like being a parent, being a partner, being a human with humor, opinions, depth, stories. Protecting your identity isn't denial of the challenge that you're going through. It's survival and it's hope for the life that you hope to lead after you get through this thing. So you've got to keep those parts of you alive. Don't kill off all the parts of you just to feed the one part that is the Lyme warrior. Keep all those other parts of you alive. Try to remember back to things that made you happy, that made you feel like you were having fun and laughing and joy and excitement, adventure. Try to remember some of those things that about you and try to do them again. See, when I was going through Lyme disease, I even tried new things to try and spark some other side of me. I started painting and creating videos and taking pictures and going on walks, long walks in nature. I started really trying to build a life of not just someone who's healing the body, but also someone who's multi-cultured and multi-dimensional. In other words, I tried to grow as I went through this thing, not just in terms of healing the body, but also in terms of who I am in my everyday life, my personality, my experiences. That can be so helpful not only for you and the warrior fighting inside your body, but also the relationships that you have, the depth and the connections that you have with other people. They all stem from your life experiences, your personality, your opinions, everything that you've experienced up to this date can't be lost just because you're going through this health challenge. Don't let it happen. It's not worth it. And sometimes you've got to be able to say, I'm struggling without sounding hopeless, right? Because too often we fear what people will think about us when we tell them what we're going through. And so if you want someone to know that you're going through something, but you don't want to sound hopeless or like, everything is lost because you don't want to alarm them and you don't want to cause, a bunch of chaos in your life, just being honest, then, it's important to be able to say these things without sounding too hopeless. So not everyone should get full access, first of all. So not everyone should know all of your struggles. Not everyone needs to know that you're going through this. You don't have to shout it from the mountaintop. You don't have to share it with every single person. If you are sharing it with every single person, I would say maybe reflect on the last section we just went through about identity, because it sounds like you're identifying too strongly with this season of your life if you continue going back to that well every single time you talk to someone. There should be more depth, more dimensions to who you are as a person that you don't even need to talk about this unless the person truly deserves to be in your circle and understanding you on on deep levels like that. So most people don't even know how to hold chronic illness or how to be there for someone with chronic illness. And most people honestly just lack bandwidth. They're busy in their own life. They have their own problems. They have their own stress. They have their own, their own path that they're walking down, their own stories. And so they're not really available and able to help you through this thing. And so to bring it up to them and put it on them is kind of a disservice to them, which, isn't totally your fault. You are dealing with something difficult, but let's try not to do that because you need that tight inner circle. I'm talking about like 1 to 3 people, maybe 4 people that truly know the struggle of what you're going through. But beyond that, you simply don't need to share everything with everyone. I think in today's day and age, a lot of people make that mistake that they need to share everything with everyone, largely because of social media and everyone sharing everything all the time and being able to see what random, A-list celebrities are doing every minute of the day, along with the guy down the street, Steve, what he's eating for breakfast and lunch. It's just too much, right? We've come to think that everyone wants to know what we're doing all the time, and it's simply not true. Most people are worried about themselves, not about you. The language that we use matters here. And what you believe affects you, and what other people believe about you also affects you. So you want to avoid saying things like, I'm in a really bad place or I feel terrible today, but instead you can say things like, I'm supporting my health right now. I'm putting my health first right now. Or I'm going through something with my body, so I'm going to do XYZ, right? So you might use a line like that when someone asks you to do something that doesn't align with healthy values, like let's go drink, let's go out, on the town, whatever it is. I can't right now. I'm going through this thing with my body and I need to prioritize my health right now, right? Most people will totally understand that. They'll go like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense." They're not going to get mad at you or hate you or push you down just because you need to prioritize your health. Most people have been through different types of health challenges, so they do understand this on some level. We don't have to give them all the details and nitty gritty of what Lyme disease is and how it affects our body. We can just say, we're trying to support our health right now, and that's it. And people get that. They understand that. So we really want to think about this for ourselves as a season, not a life sentence. This is something we're going through right now. And you may be saying, well, I've been dealing with this for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. How is this a season? Well, we need to stay in that mind frame because if we let it seep into, this is the rest of our life now, that's when we've lost hope. And when we lose hope, we lose everything. When we lose hope, we're not able to do 9 out of 10 of the things that are going to move us in the right direction because we just don't believe it's possible. You can really only do things if you believe that you can do them. If you don't believe you can do them, you will not do them to completion. You won't do them fully. You won't show up as your best self. You won't continue trying. You won't push forward. We need hope in order to continue down that path. And the words we use, not only to other people, but to ourselves, matter because they can frame that for you and they can make it so you say this is a season, not a life sentence. So we want to reinforce movement, forward movement, and we want to reinforce hope every chance we get when it comes to our self and our body. That means when we're speaking about our body, we say things like, I'm going through something right now, or I'm going through a season where I'm prioritizing my health, or I'm prioritizing my health right now. These simple lines remind us that this is happening right now, not forever, that there is forward movement. We are not stuck, and that there is hope. We can get through this. I've done it. I haven't had symptoms now in 9 years. I've helped other people do it. I've seen them go from bedridden to walking again. I've seen them go from trying to get better for decades to finally not having any symptoms at all and getting back to their greatest joys in life, like hanging out with their grandkids and spending time in their garden. I've seen this happen over and over and over again, and it can happen for you too. It just requires that we show up and support our body in the right ways and keep that hope alive. Now, there's this thing that happens when we are conversing with other people and talking to people. They say things that can hurt us a little bit. Like for example, you don't look sick. That can hurt people's feelings. That's frustrating to hear, especially for people with chronic illness or Lyme disease. It's a common phrase and it's often meant kindly, right? They're saying you don't look sick, which is good. Like we do care about what we look like as human beings. So to hear that, it at first glance sounds positive, and to the person that said it, it sounds positive. But to you, it sounds bad. Okay. It sounds like I can't see it, so I don't know how to respond, right? And that's really what they're saying. What they're really saying is if I can't see your sickness, then I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to respond to you. I don't even know if it's real, is often what it means underlying everything. Invisible illness is a problem. And the thing is, it doesn't trigger empathy reflexes for people. They can't fully come to terms with the fact that you're going through something because they can't see it. They can't grasp it. So they look at you and they say, "You look fine." And then their empathy switch turns off. They're not fully empathetic to what you're going through. And that can hurt our feelings. That doesn't feel good at all because they're saying basically, you're faking it or you're not really authentically ill, which isn't the case. As we know, it's invisible. You won't be able to see it, hear it, smell it, touch it. It's just the feelings that we get on the inside. It's the achy joints, the brain fog, the massive amount of fatigue every day, the barely going day by day with life just drifting by and not really remembering much of it at all. I've been there. I know how that feels. But humans respond more directly to things they can see, right? Casts, scars, hospital beds. If you had any of those things, they would grasp it right away. They would have empathy. They would understand that you're ill. But if you don't have those things, they don't fully get it and they don't know how to respond. And the suffering is internal. So people minimize that by default. They automatically say, that's, whatever. I can't see it. I can't touch it. I can't tell. So it doesn't really exist. And it's important to realize, though, that these people are usually not dismissing you and they're not saying they don't believe you. Deep down, Lyme disease breaks social scripts that we all rely on. It breaks all the rules. It doesn't make sense to most people. And they get stuck and bogged down in the thought of what it is versus the reality of what it is. Because, like I said, they can't touch it, feel it, see it, smell it. They can't understand it. They can't grasp it. And so there's no empathy. And that's a big problem for so many people. Um, the only way people have empathy is if they've been through it before or if they're going through it right now. And those people are the most empathetic. But also, if you have someone that loves you and is just automatically empathetic towards the things that you're going through, and they fully believe you and they're fully on board with that you feel like a shell of yourself while you're going through this process, that's excellent. It's just that those people tend to be few and far between. It's hard to find someone like that that actually understands, that actually cares enough to say, okay, you say that you feel this way. I fully hear you and I'm with you and I understand. And I'm going to help you, whatever it takes. That type of person is hard to find. And if you found that person, congratulations and hold them close. But there's certain times when we just should not talk about Lyme disease really at all. Um, you know, pain can be real and it can be poorly timed. So just because we have the pain doesn't mean we have to share it and tell people about it. So, as an example, if someone opens up and starts telling you about themselves and starts going deep about their own life, and you respond by redirecting it back to your health, that is not quite, that's not a good look. It's not really what you want to do. Because if you flip their perspective, it wouldn't feel good the other way, right? If you were sharing your struggles and you're opening up to somebody, and then they come back with themselves, oh, I'm going through this thing. That never feels good. It doesn't work. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't create a lasting connection. You've basically pushed that person's problems and struggles away and filled the hole with your own struggles. And that nobody likes that. That's actually a really bad social interaction. And whenever somebody does those types of things, I leave the conversation saying, wow, that person, I hope, I don't really, I never wish ill on anybody, of course. I'm not going to go out of my way to spend time with that person very often because they just always redirect back to themselves and their own problems. Especially if you get to a place where you're, opening up and being very communicative more than you normally would with most people, and then they come back with that really sucks. So the timing really does matter for when you're explaining things to people and when you're talking about Lyme disease and co-infections and all the different pieces, or even just saying, I have Lyme disease. The timing matters for that. So another time when it wouldn't really make sense would be during intimate and emotional moments. Loved ones don't always want to be caretakers. They didn't go to medical school. They didn't sign up to be a doctor or a nurse. The core truth here is that people want you, and they want you at your best. And they don't want just your illness. They don't want just your struggles. They want you at your best. So repeated complaints, like constantly complaining about the things that you're going through, can wear relationships down. They can make it really hard for people to want to be around you. Now, I'm not saying you don't get to complain or I'm not trying to blame you as the victim of Lyme disease, but what I'm saying is the reality of the situation is people don't like hanging out with complainers. That's just how it is. And it can get annoying, it can be too much, and it's a lot. And so it's just something to realize that that's behind the scenes. So this is why broader support systems matter so much. We can't rely fully on one person to take all of the weight off. We can't rely on one person to support us and give us everything we need. We need practitioners, coaches, therapists. We need people that we can talk to about ourselves and our own struggles without throwing it onto our loved ones all the time. This is extremely important and valuable. And ignoring that piece of the puzzle can end up eroding your relationships and make it really hard for people to even want to be around you anymore. So we've got to have other people in our life that are meant to help us with these struggles so that we can show up as our authentic full selves with the people that just love us and want to be around us, right? So this requires obviously radical responsibility. It requires that we, you know, are responsible for our own lives. Nobody else is going to show up for your life better than you are. And even if you have that loved one that shows up for you in an amazing way, that doesn't mean that you should constantly throw everything on them because they will get exhausted eventually. They will get overwhelmed eventually. You've got to have that responsibility for yourself and show up for yourself just as much as you want someone to show up for you. So, loved ones aren't here to fix you. Ownership of your problems changes everything, and it makes it so that people can actually love you for you, which is really what we're after, right? So I'm not saying to stop complaining altogether and never say that you have any struggles, but what I am saying is that if that's all you talk about constantly, you will be exhausting to be around. And that's why it's important to have coaches and therapists and practitioners in your corner that you can talk to about these struggles and that can help you come up with solutions and that can support you and guide you through these processes. But throwing all of that on your loved one is simply unfair because they're not trained to help you through this process 9 times out of 10, unless you married a doctor. That'd be pretty cool. But if not, then you're just kind of throwing things at them and then they have to go figure out how to get that weight off their chest. And so maybe they can talk to a therapist or talk to a coach, but about you and help you move into that process as well. Because at the end of the day, our loved ones just want us to show up as us in the best version of ourselves. So ownership changes everything, and it's up to us at the end of the day to take full responsibility, full ownership of our struggles, our problems, and show up for ourselves in a way that we'd want our loved ones to show up for us. And then and only then we'll have solid, clean, healthy relationships where people can support us and can show up for us in the way that we want because they love us and they want to give back to us. So there's this thing that happens where people overshare online and then they undershare in real life. This is a very real thing that happens today all the time. So I want to bring this up and talk about it because I think it relates here and it's really important. So there's less sharing in real life and more sharing online. We've seen this for, as the internet came out and everything played out over the last few decades. We've seen that people will share things about their health online, like on forums and groups, and they'll say all types of stuff. And then in real life, they will not. They will just keep everything to themselves. And there's a reason why. It's because online feels safer. There's no visible discomfort. You can't see the other person's face while you're saying it. There's no interruption. They can't interrupt you or say what they want to say in the middle of it. And there's no minimization. There's no one, minimizing the things that you're saying or overcrowding you with their problems or, coming back too quickly. So those are all great. That means it's a safer place. It feels safer to share this information online. But there's a hidden cost because eventually real relationships start to starve as you share more and more online and don't share offline. Because loved ones can start to feel shut out if you're not sharing those struggles that you have with them. And I know this is a very difficult thing to square for people because we just talked about how they don't want you to basically just talk about their struggles, but at the same time, they do want to understand your struggles so they can, fully understand you as who you are and have a deep connection with you. So there's a push and a pull here where they want the bad parts of you, bad parts. They want the struggles, they want the hard times, they want to understand you and so that they can support you, but at the same time they don't want it 24/7, 365 because they have their own problems. So there's a weird dichotomy here, a push and a pull. It's not always just a simple straight line here. And that's what makes relationships so interesting and so difficult. And again, having Lyme disease thrown into the middle of a relationship is like throwing a Molotov cocktail into a relationship. And then you're just trying to figure it all out, but you've got this illness that's holding you back the whole time. And it can be really, really difficult. But this isn't really about trust. This is about the fear of burdening other people. So you don't always want to share your struggles because it feels like a burden. And sometimes, truth is, it is a burden. If we're being completely honest here, which I pride myself in being very honest and direct, sometimes your struggles are a burden to other people. That's just a fact. That's just part of life. And sometimes that's hard to hear and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it because I'm a realist. I believe in reality and I believe in what's real at the end of the day. So if that is what's real, that people will feel burdened if I continue to talk to them about how sick I am, then I don't want to do that to people. I don't want them to feel burdened. But there's a really key distinction here, and that's that everything doesn't just belong online, right? We don't have to share all the ins and outs of our personal life and our health online. But also, not everything belongs with your partner or your loved one. They don't necessarily need to know every single part of you, especially if it's something you're dealing with and struggling with yourself. Maybe they need to know about it briefly and they can support you in any way that they can. But if you continue going back to that well every single day, that becomes exhausting to everybody. So we want to do appropriate sharing in appropriate places. It's important to separate these two ideas of real life versus online sharing and use them for what they're worth. Understand their pros and cons of sharing in each context and use them where they matter. So if you want to be maybe discreet and you don't want to be minimized and you don't want to be interrupted and you need to vent a little bit, online sharing is fine. But if you want real support and someone that's going to hear you out and understand you and sit with you and grieve with you, then it's better probably to open up in person because oftentimes what I found when I was looking for support with Lyme disease is I would go on these online forums, these groups, these chats, these whatever, and oftentimes it is a pity party. It is people just saying, Lyme disease sucks so bad. It took this, this, and this from me, and now I have all these medical bills and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that does suck. Then all the comments will just pile on like, yeah, I lost my, I had got a divorce and I lost my house and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have, you know, I can't get better. The doctors aren't helping me. I'm taking antibiotics. And like, it's just a bunch of people complaining about their lives collectively, which is fine if that's what those people need to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel like they have a place to share. That's great. But for me, I felt like these people will hold me back. If I hang out in these groups 24/7, I will be pulled down constantly. I will be forced underwater because they are going to push me down so they can get their own head above water, right? And then I'm drowning. So it doesn't help me personally. This is a personal preference to hear about other people's complaints and problems when I'm trying to heal myself. Now, as someone who's been through it and has gone through it, and now I'm done with it and I feel amazing, now I go periodically into these groups and I talk to people and I listen to people and I understand people and I give them my 2 cents and I try to break down what I did and I try to break down what our clients are doing to get better because now I'm in a place where I have a full glass and I can, you know, pour into other people's glasses. I can give back. And that's what I do. That's what I spend all my time doing now is talking to people, helping them through this difficult health challenge, making podcasts like this one, working with other people directly one-on-one, building supplement plans, building nutrition plans, understanding people's challenges in their life, coming up with products that can help them, and so much more. So the point is, most people are not in a place where they can support another person going through Lyme disease because they're going through it themselves in these groups. And so they end up dragging you down with them. And you just end up in a uh, you just end up in a complaining competition a lot of times in these groups. And that's not what you want. What you really want is someone who's going to lift you up, a group of people that are supporting each other, giving each other positive messages every day, holding each other accountable, talking about personal responsibility, helping each other stay on the path, remaining resilient, keeping hope alive. That is what moves the ball forward. That's what helps you get better. So try not to get bogged down by all of those groups and people just piling on with their complaints and making it seem worse than it really is. Instead, lean into a group such as the Lyme Wars community where we only really talk about positive news. We lift each other up. We help each other. We tell each other what worked for us. We give each other the answers. We promote resilience and hope and faith and do everything in our power to move in the right direction. That is what will help you out of this situation. And that is the type of group of people you want to be a part of rather than the group that's just complaining and holding each other back. It's like a bunch of crabs trying to climb out of a bucket. The crabs on the bottom always grab the crab on the top and pull them back down. They, they eventually cannot get out of the bucket because all the crabs on the bottom just keep pulling them back down. And that is what you want to avoid if you're the person who's going through this health challenge and you want to get better. Try to avoid those groups because a lot of the time they're just dragging you down instead of helping you lift up and get out of there, which is what Lyme Wars was designed to do. Now, understanding is not the same as support. So, as we discussed earlier, if you want understanding, if you want to vent, if you want to be heard, if you want people to mourn with you and grieve with you, you've got to say that up front. Say, I'm really just trying to vent here. I really just want you to hear me out. I really just want to get this off my chest. Saying things like that allows people to know how to show up. But if you want the opposite, that's what this is. That's what we're talking about now. Most relationship issues come down to unclear expectations. One person expects something, the other person doesn't do it, that person gets mad, and then it's just an endless cycle of well, I thought you were going to do it. And no, and it's just a big unclear expectation cycle. So expectations in the first place is an interesting conversation that we could talk about probably a whole podcast. And having expectations for other people usually doesn't pan out. It doesn't help too much. But unclear expectations are even worse. So specificity will reduce the emotional load or even the cognitive load on other people. If you can be specific and direct, that actually helps people. It's actually a service that you're doing people in your communication. So instead of help with chores, tell me the exact tasks that you want me to do. Instead of can you help me my joints feel better? Tell me the exact things you need me to do to help that happen. Do you need me to get you an ice pack? Do you need me to get you a pillow? Like what is the exact thing that you need? So be specific in your communication if you want to help your loved ones understand you better. They need that. They need that specificity. They need that clarity in the communication. Otherwise, they're left to guess and try to figure it out. And then they usually won't meet your expectations because they didn't know what your expectations were to begin with. So I think it's really, really important for people to get this and to use it in their relationships. I know I've had plenty of problems with this specific example that I'm giving here. So there's also, this isn't just like woo woo energy type stuff. This is science, right? The brain science is that our humans are designed for energy conservation. We want to save as much energy as possible. We don't like guesswork. We don't do well at it. We don't meet expectations if we don't know what the expectations are. We simply cannot do things correctly if we don't have clarity. And so the brain is always trying to conserve energy. So we will do the least thing if we believe that that's what the person wants us to do. The thing that's the easiest for us to do, that's what we'll end up doing. So take the guesswork out of it. Be very clear and exact and precise with your language. And then that person has less cognitive load. They don't have to think about what's going on. They don't have to, guess. They can just go do exactly what you said. Now, here's the problem is that you've got brain fog, you've got energy problems, you've got, your joints hurt. So sometimes you can't be very clear in your language. So it's not my point to say you need to be better, you need to have better language. It's my point to say try a little bit more, to be more exact with your words, to be more straightforward with people, because it will help them show up for you in the way that you need. And in that way, everybody wins. So clear requests just equal easier compliance. It's a lot easier to help someone if they tell you exactly what to help them with. So I think that's a really valuable and important lesson that I've learned and one that might serve some people that listen to this. Now, one of the deepest wounds that people have is people fading away out of their life. And so sometimes people will disappear as you go through this health phase of your life. Maybe they're not aligned with health in their life right now, or maybe they're just more focused on different things. But it's easy to assume that it's betrayal or it's abandonment or they just turn their back on you and they don't like you anymore. All those dark feelings that you can have about yourself when people disappear out of your life. But often the reality is overwhelm. That people feel overwhelmed by all of the problems they have in their own life mixed with the problems you have in your life. It's just a lot. There's fear of saying the wrong thing. If someone feels like they're walking on eggshells with you and they fear showing up and saying the wrong thing or not understanding you or not being able to show up the way that you need, if they have fear there, they may not want to hang out with you anymore. People don't like to hang out with people that they feel fear around, right? And if they feel overwhelmed around you, same thing. Eventually, the relationship will erode and break down because of those feelings. So, avoidance doesn't actually mean a lack of care. It the I know that's sometimes hard to cope with, but if someone's avoiding you, it doesn't mean that they don't care about you. It could mean the opposite, which is really hard for most people to come to grips with. But either way, it doesn't erase the pain of losing that person in your life, but it reframes it. It can help with grieving accurately. They're not disappearing because they don't care about you. They're often disappearing because they've got their own issues to deal with or their own stuff that they're going through, or maybe they just don't align with what you're going through at the moment, and that is completely okay. Now, I'm not saying that the pain should be any less or that you should grieve this any less or that you may not feel sad. You probably will still feel sad a lot of the time when this happens, but you need to, we all need to be very particular with who has access to us, especially when we're going through this vulnerable period with health challenges and Lyme disease. We shouldn't want to be friends with everyone in this scenario. We should really be specific with who gets access to us because we're vulnerable. We're in a position where people can more easily affect our life because of the health challenges we're currently going through. So we need to be specific and particular about who gets access to us. If somebody makes us feel terrible on the inside, we should probably avoid that person while we're healing our body. If somebody makes us constantly judges us or pins us against others or pins us against society or makes us compare ourselves to other people, we may want to remove that person from our life. And I'm not saying remove like I just mean, maybe fade away from that person a little bit. And so there is obviously a huge conversation around when to stop being part of someone's life. And I don't think we can answer all of that in this podcast episode, but it is worth mentioning that sometimes people will just fade away and disappear out of your life. And that's something that we end up having to deal with, especially when it comes to healing from Lyme disease. So, if we're being intentional with who we're showing up as with our relationships and with all the people in our life that are important to us, then that's all that matters. We tried our best, we did everything we could, and then the rest is just on other people, which let's be honest, other people have problems too. They have issues, they have health challenges, they have finance challenges, they have career problems and family problems, and humans are messy. It's important to remember that not everything is because of something you did. Oftentimes, it's because of something that they're going through in their own life that has nothing to do with you. So I think it's important to think about that and to kind of let go quickly and be okay with how things end up as you go through this process. Because the quicker we can be okay with how things are, the more resilient we can be in the face of adversity that we're currently going through. So, at the end of everything, we need to stop blaming Lyme for everything. So, Lyme disease is brutal. It's difficult. No one chooses this. Many people are left with long-term symptoms for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I've worked directly with these people and helped them get their life back. It's so rewarding and it makes me feel so good to see the transformations that people go through. But it is hard. The thing that we want to avoid is chronic blame or victimhood or stuckness because all of these push other people away. If we're constantly in that victim mentality, that woe is me, my life sucks, everything sucks in my life, I can't do this, I lost that, you know, this hurts, that hurts. If everything you say is a complaint, that pushes people away. Now, the thing is, I'm not saying you're not a victim. You are. You're a victim of Lyme disease, which is you didn't choose it. Nobody asked for it. It's brutal. But to constantly share that victimhood and constantly blame Lyme disease and constantly stay stuck in that frame of mind is only holding you back. So it's about responsibility. And responsibility doesn't mean pretending you're fine. Responsibility is resilience. That means continuing to show up even when things are hard. It means doing the things you know you need to do, even when you're facing adversity and life is hard. If anybody has ever done it, that means you can do it too. It's about showing up, continuing forward, step by step, day by day, hoping that you can feel better and keeping that hope alive, not denying who you are, where you've been, and what you're going through, but just keeping that hope alive that things are going to be better because they are. You can be honest with yourself without becoming Lyme disease and focusing all of your energy towards Lyme disease. Instead, focusing all of your energy towards positivity, towards health, towards lifting yourself up, towards creating a body that can handle illness, towards building capacity for your body. That's where we want our energy flowing, not towards Lyme disease and killing Lyme disease and getting rid of Lyme disease and feeling crappy and having, brain fog and having hurt joints and having massive fatigue. It's very easy to get in the complaining game with all of this stuff, but what we really need is to be positive about what we can do for our health now and moving forward. And when that happens, when we start to show up for ourselves and take full responsibility and do the things that we need to do in order to improve our health and our body, then our relationships can start to thrive again. And not only that, but our finances, our career, our health, our, family life, everything can start to thrive when our health is taken care of. But this episode is about relationships. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. And don't forget, if you have someone who has been showing up for you and loving you, even through this dark period where you're dealing with this difficult health challenge, hold them close, tell them you love them, and appreciate them because they are everything. I hope you join us in our Lyme Wars community, which is newer and it's not a huge group, but it is a group of positive, helpful people who want to see each other get better. The link for that and a bunch of other free resources is directly below this video. And I'm sending love to you from myself to get through this thing. I know that it's been hard and sometimes you don't feel supported. I just want you to know that I wake up and I think about you every single day. I try my best to build a world where people with Lyme disease can get better quickly, easily, happily, and do so in a way that supports their body instead of tearing it down. And so I'm sending love to you to get through this thing, and let's keep going. Let's keep pushing forward. You got this.